Yeah, baby. Got it. Thank God the week is over, and the month of January is really creeping to an end. 2 weeks in already. By the way, somebody wished me a Happy New Year, and I said, "Oh, thank you." And they said, "Not too late." No, not too late to wish me a Happy New Year. But it would seem that the media isn't happy that it's a new year, although they'll say they're 1 year closer to the end of the Trump era. I mean, just amazing the fanaticism, the craziness, and whatever that the media, the left, is trying to put out there. This week, Stuart, was the 1 year anniversary that Trump V2 of his term in office. January 20th, he was sworn in as president of the United States. And many would call him the new order of the world, the new emperor, new Caesars in the White House, all kinds of different remarks. And you could take it for what it is in the style. If you're reading a Melanie Phillips, a British journalist who wrote about Trump, it's not a demeaning piece in calling him a Caesar. It's just his style is very Caesar-esque. But the media is going to love this. Is going to try to trample all over Donald Trump because, again, DST, deranged Trump syndrome, DTS or whatever, or TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, is out there because it's all about making stuff up, trying to corner people into saying things. Now, I don't know, Stuart, if you remember the story when Michael Jordan, way back when, was asked about his position on Republicans. And his answer was, even Republicans buy sneakers. And he was not going to go there. Same with Tiger Woods, refused to go down the path of politics. But the media wants to corner. The media wants to grab the current Olympic athletes and say, you must be embarrassed to be an American today. You know, it's crazy because, Stuart, none of the Olympics are going to happen in Italy this winter. The World Cup is coming to the United States, Canada, Mexico this summer. And in 2028, the LA Olympics. So is the media going to try to trample all over Trump at the expense of destroying the patriotism that is the United States, the beauty that is the Olympics and cheering for America? Let the games begin. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Rant Network. He's Stuart Brisgell. He's back. He came back finally. He's back from his road trip up the coast. Here at the Rant Network, what we do every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern. We love to rant. We love to comment about politics, culture, society, stupidity, and so much more. From the absurdities of life to the media, to politics, to the economy, to you name it, we're here to talk about these things. So sit back. And Stuart today, I'm going to let Stuart, who wasn't here on Wednesday, share his feelings, his love, his passion for what is now the new form of anti-patriotism. Stuart, what say you, my friend?
Oh boy, we live in a moment where sports and politics are officially colliding. Yep. Like never before. What used to be in the locker room, the stadium, the court, places where athleticism and competition were supposed to reign, are now becoming a stage for political debate. Increasingly, journalists are asking about players' training or strategy. They're asking about how it feels to represent United States in a Trump era. Flag, anthems, uniforms, once symbols of pride and unity, have become a litmus test. Make no mistake, this isn't an accident. It's a result of an agenda driven not by a genuine concern of the sport athletes, but an effort to reshape national conversation and influence public sentiment about our countries or any countries and its administration. Kind of sounds like Hollywood gone rogue. What happened to sports media, right? Let's look at what happened just the other day. It was the 2026 Australian Open. And reporters pressed the U.S. tennis stars Coco Gauff, Madison Keys, and Taylor Fritz, Armanda Asmova, with politically charged questions. And it ran like this. How does it feel to play under the American flag today's climate? Players like Anisimova pushed back, saying, what kind of politicized question? It had no place at this sporting event. And Fritz even warned that any answer could be misused in a headline. The reaction from the fans and comments were, wow. Political commentary instead of competition. Just last week at the NBA games in London, the national anthem itself became a platform for political protest. An audience member yelled, "Leave Greenland alone." Well, during the national anthem, which, by the way, we ranted about on Monday because I missed Wednesday. And by the way, I feel even more vindicated with that rant after more information has now been released about it. And I stand affirmative that Greenland does need to be somehow attached to the American border. But whatever, a clear reference to President Trump's controversial foreign policy regarding territory and what his plan is. The protest drew mixed boos and cheers. International crowds and social media blew up again with the debate on whether sports should be a venue for criticisms of U.S. leadership. A few days ago, an NFL star commented about being an honor to play when President Trump was in attendance, triggered a wave of pushback. Not about the game, not about the play, not about the game at all, but about what his remarks said about politics and celebrity culture. And these are not isolated moments. These are just three examples of a trend in which athletes are asked to stake a position on national identity. Policies, presidential, political, before the game even begins. We all know, capping off, let me take a knee, let me put a hand up, make a fist, right? What happened to those Olympic athletes, Davids, in the 1960s and 70s? Gone, medal taken away. Learn a fucking lesson in history. So why is it really important? Why is this happening now? Athletes have today more celebrityism with massive audience. Their social media reaches millions instantly, like soccer players. When an athlete speaks, the world listens. Used to be when Tom Cruise ran, everyone watched. Things changed. That's an attractive to a political movement, parties, and the media itself, because athletes endorsed or criticized can shape a public's perception. It's kind of like your kids coming to you and telling you the news on what's on TikTok. Mainstream media outlets are driven by engagement. They make dineros. Content that drives clicks sparks outrage or divide. Opinions get attention. And remember, David and I spoke about the onset of media, from the Stone Ages to the print, to the radio, to the television, now to the internet, and who's in control. And that's all too often what politicians and politics is about. Now it's sports producers. According to recent media analysis, political content appears on the homepage of every major sports brand nearly every day, blurring the lines between athleticism and ideologies. So, where is the Republican critics becoming direct? The policy fights about economy, border, inflation, national security, ICE, law and order, deporting, criminal actions against murderers. They don't always lend themselves too quick for sensation of headlines. Michael Jordan, even Republicans buy sneakers. So athletes that decide to break that line and fall beneath Tiger Woods and many other athletes about their brand not being a political statement are the ones that are going to stand the test of time. So, from a Republican perspective, this pattern is definitely not organic. It's strategic. When critics of Trump's administration fail to slow economic growth, fail to point out rising employment, fail to make gains on issues that actually are prioritized by its voters, they look for anything that stirs emotion that appears controversial. Politics loses its bite when it reduces the soundbite about a job number, GDP growth, sentiment, feeling, national pride, the amount of money your gas costs you, the amount eggs cost you. It's digestible, especially when you repackage it with emotional optics. So instead of debating tax policy or border security, let's now bring in sports athletes that are embarrassed to wear the flag of the country. And you know what? I think we should be embarrassed of the people that are in politics that are embarrassed of our country, like AOC, like Talib, like Omar. Let me just come to an end because I've been ranting now for like 11 minutes. It's the cultural moment of sports where something that historically brought people together in arena, they're now trying to use to divide. From the days of the Romans, where the thumb up and thumb down from Caesar meant life or death, they're asking the athletes in the stadium to give a thumb up or thumb down to Caesar.
Stuart, it's really funny what you said. Just some thoughts came to mind because I'm a big sports fan. Where you're not into the sport, I am. And I was too young to remember 1972 here in Canada with the Soviet Canada series and how the victory that Canada had in that year over the Soviet Union made a difference to Canadians. And we're not such a patriotic country, but in 72, from what I heard, it galvanized. The United States felt that in Lake Placid in 1980 when these upstart university kids, and folks, go watch the movie Miracle by Disney. It's as close to the real story as possible. It is fantastic, but you don't understand the sentiment. The enemy within was the Soviets, the Soviet Professional Red Army against these university kids, and that they beat them in a miracle fashion. The story is extraordinary. There were flags, and I remember that because I was 10 years old, Stuart, and I remember the American flags being everywhere. That was the moment. And by the way, that game wasn't even live. It was recorded. The ABC didn't even have it live back in 1980. Different times, folks. Stuart, Ken Dryden was the color man back in those, and believe it or not, on that broadcast. And when I think about it, every single time, every single generation, 9/11, the first baseball game after 9/11 in the Yankee Stadium. And a cheer went out for President Bush in what he did, a Republican president. It seems that when the chips are really down, do Americans wake up and go, I'm proud to be an American? And I thought that was not just in some countries, but that the patriotism runneth deep in the United States. But apparently, politics has reared its ugly head in sports, Stuart, for a while. Major League Baseball pulled the All-Star game out of Atlanta because they didn't like the fact that they wanted voter ID, politics getting involved. You have the NBA running to China to play basketball in a country that is dealing with human rights violations, but on the other side, they criticize other countries, including isolating one Turkish-born basketball player. He's not there anymore. He was been isolated because he had believe it or not, he had a death threat on his head, and the NBA did not support him. Brittany Griner was taken in Russia, and the WNBA went ballistic. After George Floyd, the WNBA, they went nuts. They took a knee for the anthem. This was the thing, taking a knee for the anthem. Colin Kaepernick for the reminder. Stuart, this isn't new in sports. Sports has been taken on this whole notion. Steve Kerr, the coach of the Golden State Warriors, at press conferences, when he can, he takes a shot at President Trump. LeBron James, same thing. These are proud, carrying Democrats. They'll tell you to your face. The line between sports and politics is gone. There's no wall anymore. And if you dare to tell a reporter today, my politics are my own and none of your business, you're vilified. And once again, you are forcing people into doing things. Stuart, let me just put it this way. On Monday, you talked about what the United States wants to do with Greenland. And it's very ironic, Stuart. And I mentioned Melanie Phillips on purpose because she's a phenomenal British journalist who called it as it is, that this is what the media is not going to tell you. What's the word that they associate with Donald Trump on a regular basis? Bully. that he's bullying the world to do what he wants. And Melanie Phillips says, how interesting that the left and the media are calling Donald Trump a bully when the world bullied Israel since October 7th, 2023, into forcing them into doing things that they don't want, with Hamas, humanitarian aid, isolationism, boycotting, you name it. The world is bullying Israel. The same people who are criticizing Donald Trump's strategy are doing it themselves. We won't go there. But what we're going to do is force athletes, no matter where they are, to denounce the president, denounce America for their own benefit. Stuart, the United States spends and invests billions of dollars in personal athletes to go Olympics and you name it. You think Visa, who's a big sponsor of the U.S. Olympic team, wants to see down with America? No. Do you think that, do you think that the Americans, when they win a medal, when they win a gold medal, what do, Stuart, at the Olympics? No. Aside from celebrating. Thank you so much.
The national anthem.
So what are you going to do now? Not do it? You brought up the two athletes from 1968 in the Mexican Olympics, and I can't remember their name. And they raised their hand and they got their medals withdrawn, and they were told you can't do that. Politics does not get into sports. Here we are 60 odd years later, and politics is all over sports. And that's the problem. We've changed the rules, and we're forcing the athletes who just want to be neutral. They want to be American. They want to be Canadian. They want to be British. They want to be Israeli. You name it. Stuart, Denny Avdia, a name that you have probably don't even know who he is an Israeli-born NBA superstar on the rise, playing for the Portland Trailblazers. There's a movement to try to get him boycotted from playing in the All-Star game because he's an Israeli citizen. He's born and raised in Israel, did military service, but he's a rising star, and this is what they're trying to do. The Russians were thrown out. Stuart, I can give you list after list after list. The Russians were thrown out of the International Olympics. They were thrown out of all kinds of sports. And now the Russians want to get back in. And people are going, oh, we should let the Russians back in because they're okay. Politics has been there forever. 1980, boycotting the Moscow Olympics. 1984.
1984, boycotting the LA
Politics
Olympics.
has been involved in sports for the longest time at that level, and we tore it apart back then. We were embarrassed and offended that we let our politicians take away our chance of competing. And now the media is doing the same thing. Folks, when I watch sports, I don't want to see politics. I have enough politics on the news channels, on my social channels, but I'm tired. When I want to watch sports, I want to watch a football game, a basketball game, a hockey game, and enjoy myself without a microphone put in someone's face and saying, what do you think of Trump? This is idiotic. Politics does not need to rear its ugly head in sports. And if the fact that the media wants Americans to denounce Trump, to put basically put the middle finger up to the American flag, I think is insulting and offensive, and we should push back.
At worst, this is a cultural moment, turns sports, something that historically brought people together into arenas.
Hey, Stuart, let me ask you a question. Think about it, your neighbors may not be happy with you, with your politics, but if you win the gold, if you win the hockey gold, which is, by the way, the gold star of the Olympics, what do you think is going to happen? Yeah, the Winter. No, Stuart. I'm talking about this year. In 2 weeks, the Italian Olympics are going to start, and if the United States wins the gold medal in hockey, are you going to tell me that we shouldn't be proud to be Americans? Ha! Bullshit.
David, listen. It asks athletes to answer a question that they didn't sign up for. It asks fans to interpret athletic commentary as political judgment. It asked Americans on both sides of the aisle to reconsider whether sports should be about spectacle and skill or ideology. For many on the right, the answer is clear. This isn't about sports anymore. It's about narrative control. And the left opened the door, frustrated by electoral defeat policy losses and leveraging cultural conflicts where they can find it. And the media is their tool, willing to amplify it every day. And that's why we're here today, David, talking about who won or lost, but about why sports have become a political battleground. And what it says about the state of any nation conversation,
folks, I'm going to tell you,
pretty. Nor are what's likely going to be a very political.
Stuart, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to wrap it up like
David?
this. Stuart and I in a few weeks are going to be talking about who's got more medals, and the United States is going to have more medals than Canada, and is likely to win the medal count, and likely to have more gold than anybody else, because that's the United States. And frankly, if I were an American today, I'd be super proud. In 2010, when Canada beat the United States in the hockey game, I was thrilled.
No.
It was probably one of my finest Canadian moments at the time. That in 1987. But folks, today I got to tell you something. Politics be damned. Politics be damned, and let the game begin. Stuart, with that, I'm going to wrap up another week of the Rant Network. Thank you all so much. We're great. Monday.